Welcome to our new video. This is the Philips Series 9000 Prestige. We reviewed this shaver for you, and you'll find everything you need to know in this video. Let's go. We begin with the Philips Series 9000 Prestige. Before we get to the practical test, we'll first give you an overview of the product in our Features and Technology section first. The 9000 Prestige is a so-called rotary shaver. As the name suggests, it has a number of rotating blades, 3 to be exact. These blades are built into movable plates and are also flexible within themselves. Together with the shaving head, which is flexible as well, the shaver can follow the contours of the face well. The device can also be used for both dry and wet shaving and is waterproof so that it can also be used while showering. Compared to other shavers on the market, the battery delivers a decent performance. A full charge provides 60 minutes of shaving time. Only the charging time is relatively long at 180 minutes, and the quick charge function at 18 minutes is anything but quick, in our opinion. On the other hand, you can monitor the battery status very well, as it is displayed in detail as a percentage. This allows you to plan precisely when the device needs to be recharged again. Unfortunately, there is no mains operation, which would not make much sense in this case anyway, as the shaver is charged wirelessly via a charging pad. Accordingly, the power socket on the base of the device is sealed shut. The power plug also runs via USB only. Thus, you cannot plug the shaver directly into the power outlet anyway. Therefore, it is a good thing that the manufacturer included a button lock to prevent the battery from discharging accidentally. Simply press and hold the power button for a few seconds, and you are good to go. As a top device, the Series 9000 comes with quite a few features. For example, a friction-free coating called Skin Glide, which is supposed to reduce possible skin irritation, as well as the integrated top spin motor, which can also handle a 7-day beard. This shaver also allows you to set the shaving intensity manually. You can choose between the 3 levels: sensitive, normal, and fast. As far as the scope of delivery is concerned, the 9000 Prestige is also positioned well within its price range. The aforementioned charging pad with its indicator light has a high-quality finish and makes the charging process much more convenient, as you can simply place the shaver on it without fiddling with the cable. The travel case, which is also included, looks high quality and offers plenty of space to store all the parts of the set. There is also an attachable beard styler for your finishing touches or some pre-trimming. This can either be used for trimming or, thanks to the comb attachment, supplied for shaving longer hair. By the way, you can find all the links in the description below the video. You will find the product there as well, of course. So, let's get into detail now. We took a closer look at the shaver. There's nothing to complain about in terms of workmanship. All parts fit neatly together and make a well-made impression. With Philips shavers in particular, it has to be said that the devices look a little more fragile than the competitor devices from Braun, but in the end, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Otherwise, the Series 9000 has a slim handle, which means that the shaver fits comfortably and securely in the hand. In terms of operation and handling, the shaver benefits from the fact that the blades and head are movable. As a result, it follows the contours of the face well. This is a fundamental advantage of rotary shavers, which is why they work particularly well on angled areas, such as the chin. The disadvantage, on the other hand, is that rotary shavers are somewhat more difficult to use than foil shavers. Why? Because in order to use a rotary shaver effectively, you have to shave using a special technique in which you move over the skin in small, circular movements. You do get used to this technique over time, but it's not always that easy to do and can be a bit tiring. Apart from that, there's not much to consider while operating the device. Everything works simply and intuitively. The attachable beard styler is a useful extra in the daily routine. In our opinion, it also does its job very well. What's particularly cool is that it can be used not only as a trimmer, but also as a long hair shaver with different length settings. To do this, simply attach the comb attachment and set the desired length using the small lever on the back. On the other hand, it is a pity that you have to attach the beard styler separately. With other Philips shavers, the trimmer is integrated into the handle and can simply be folded out. Considering the price range, we would have expected the same here. A major strength of the Series 9000 is that it is very comfortable to work with. At 189 grams, it is one of the lightest devices we reviewed, has hardly any vibration in the handpiece, and the blades get lukewarm on the skin after maybe 2 minutes of shaving at best. The shaver is also the quietest of the devices we tested at around 51 decibels on the medium setting. It sounds quite high-pitched and technical, but otherwise round and pleasant. And now let's see what our colleague Chris has to say. He put the Philips 9000 Prestige to the test for us in regards to the everyday use, and gathered a lot of experience in the process. I've been testing dozens of different razors for weeks now, and came to one important conclusion. And this basically applies to all the razors I've tested. Namely, don't believe the advertising. The advertising suggests that you basically go over it once, and all the hair is gone. This is simply not the case, regardless of whether you have a razor for 50 or one for several $100. So what exactly does that mean? Basically, there are differences between the individual razors in the sense of one shaves a little better and the other shaves a little worse. But they all have the same basic problem. That is, that they do shave. But in certain places, such as the neck, a few hairs may remain. I would therefore recommend, and this applies to all devices, shave at relatively short intervals. In other words, every day or at least every 2 days. And if you can or don't want to do this, then pre-trim your beard at least once, and then just do the finishing touches with the razor. So, let's get down to the Philips 9000 Prestige and I'll go through the points with you. First point, the Prestige feels super comfortable on the skin. It's definitely better than the Series 3000 and about as comfortable as the 5000 and 7000. All in all, you could say that this is one of the most comfortable shavers you can get. Second point, as you can already see, the blades are set in plates like this, and these plates are not particularly protruding. In other words, they are relatively close to the blade. So when I shave in front of the mirror, I can see relatively well where I am. And that is of course an advantage. Point 3 is the feeling of safety, and I think this is very good with this device. At no time did I have the feeling that I could cut myself or that something was pulling my hair. Everything was pretty smooth. I took a liking to the device in terms of skin irritation, but I was quite satisfied with all other Philips products too. Don't get me wrong, if I go over it 20 times, my face will glow red like the sun at dawn. But the crucial point is that the Philips devices somehow have a mechanism that reduces skin irritation a little. It is noticeable, and I felt the difference. In terms of the shaving results, this is absolutely the best Philips has to offer. It's definitely better than the other series we've tested from Philips. Nevertheless, it has to be said that it's not better than the higher Braun series. It's good, but not better. When it comes to skin irritation and issues like that, though, we'd say that Philips comes out on top overall. How about wet shaving? Yes, that's another point that I can answer across all devices because I don't think there were any major differences between the individual shavers. What I can say is, yes, you can do it, and yes, it works. But you also have to ask yourself, does it make any sense at all? And that's the big question in my opinion. Personally, I think that if I'm going to put some shaving cream on my face anyway, then I might as well use a wet razor and end up with a better result than with an electric one. However, there is an advantage for all those who like to shave in the shower. You don't cut yourself as quickly. I don't want to give the impression that you can't cut yourself with it, but not as quickly as with a wet razor. Of course, this is especially advantageous when you're shaving in the shower and don't have a mirror available. And as a reminder, you can find the link to the product in the description below the video. And if the video was helpful to you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. To ensure that the shaver can do its job for as long as possible, it is of course important to clean it regularly. To do this, simply pull off the shaving element at the recesses provided, tap it out carefully, and then clean it under running water. Basically, this is all easy to do and not a problem. So let's move on to the blades. And as it's often the case with blades, they will eventually become blunt. The manufacturer therefore recommends changing the blade system every 24 months. Until then, however, you should actually have some peace of mind in that regard. The built-in nanotech blades are self-sharpening and thus counteract wear and tear. Let's come to the conclusion. With the Philips Series 9000 Prestige, you get a shaver in the higher price range that does justice to this classification in most respects and offers little room for criticism. In our opinion, the shaver would have benefited from a better battery charging time, a folding trimmer, and perhaps a cleaning station. Otherwise, however, We found it to be a well-performing rotary shaver, of course, also in terms of the shaving results. It feels comfortable on the skin, performs well in terms of skin irritation, and comes with some high-quality accessories. If you enjoy modern technology and want to do something good for yourself, you won't go wrong with this premium shaver. However, if you are afraid of spending so much money, you could also consider switching to the Series 7000. It is significantly cheaper, and in our opinion, not that far away from the Series 9000 in terms of the shaving performance. However, you would then have to do without a few amenities such as the charging pad and the hard case. So, we checked out this shaver for you. If you are interested in the product, take a look at the description below the video. You'll find all the links there. Otherwise, stay tuned. Our end card will provide a few interesting suggestions for you.